Hello, everyone. I am Edson Dias, and together with a research group formed by Paulo Meirelles, Fernando Castor, Igor Stemacher, Igor Vise, and Gustavo Pinto, we conducted a study to try to answer the question, what makes a great maintainer of open source projects? We use this work as inspiration to reach a goal.
In his work, they conducted a study of software engineering management at Microsoft to investigate what manager attributes developers and engineering managers perceive important and why. In his other, after synthesizing the finding, they described that the top 5 distinguishing characteristics of great engineers: writing good code, adjusting behavior to account for future value and costs, practicing informed decision-making, avoiding making other jobs harder, and learning continuously. Here, they expanded the prior work by investigating about software engineers. One of our interviewees said, when you work for a company, your manager says, build a product, and then everybody is on board and we will work together. In open source software, there are no deadlines. This is the reality of volunteer-based open source software. It takes time. This indicates that open source software maintainers perform an unquestionably central work to the success and long-term sustainability of communities. This work aims to uncover the unique attributes that great open source software maintainers might have. So, we designed 3 research questions. What are the attributes of great open source software maintainers? How do these attributes relate to each other? And how do contributors perceive the importance of these attributes? To answer research question 1, we conducted the interview during the 2019-2020. In the first round of In the second round, we interviewed 5 more women maintainers. In the second round, we interviewed 5 more women maintainers. These additional interviews had 2 goals: to increase the number of women maintainers and to verify whether we had achieved saturation or not. The 33 respondents contributed to many high-profile open source projects. To analyze the interviews, we started decoding the 172 attributes that the maintainer sent to us before the interviews. We started by reading each of the attributes and grouping those clearly representing the same code. To group attributes into high-level categories, we followed a card sorting approach and 22 attributes emerged. We then categorized the attributes in high-level clusters based on similarities between the meanings of the code. These 4 categories are management, social, technical, and personality. Thus, the categories and their attributes emerged, which will be described below. For management, 7 attributes were found. This category refers to attributes that help manage an open source software project in the sense of understanding the vision of the project, establishing and communicating project goals, propose timelines, manage the quality of documentation, etc. We will focus on the 3 most cited attributes for each category. The 3 most cited attributes were availability, vision, and discipline. Availability. This attribute refers to the response time to answer a question or to provide feedback to patch proposals. Vision. Having a global view of what to achieve with the project in the future might help maintainers define priorities. And discipline. A disciplined maintainer ensures that the process and guidelines are followed. In the social category, we group attributes related to how maintainers deal with other contributors, how to develop interaction with others by creating a shared social environment despite not understanding each other fully and having different perspectives. The 3 most cited attributes were communication, community building, and empathy. Communication is the ability to exchange information in a accessible way. Having a good communication channel with the community is important in several ways. Community building. This involves helping newcomers to get on board and motivating existing contributors to finish their tasks. Empathy. By sharing the problem of others, maintainers can deal better with contributors with different backgrounds. Technical skills are the abilities, competence, and knowledge needed to perform specific tasks. The technical category has only three attributes. Technical excellence is a way to continuously learn new skills while trying to enhance the quality of code. Maintaining a desired level of quality on the project, pay attention to every stage of development cycle. It is the attribute quality assurance. Have domain experience might help maintainers to understand strange or unusual habits in the code base. When maintainers express how they think, feel, and behave in their interaction with the community, they refer to personality aspects. For instance, to accept the delay without becoming angry, in a social group, it is important to listen to new ideas and to do something with enthusiasm. To answer research question 2, we developed the conceptual framework to understand the relationships between these attributes. During the interviews, we asked the interviewee to explain why the mentioned attribute was important to her. The understanding that interviewee has about a particular attribute is what we call the concept. When we analyze the concept, we look for relationship among them. A relationship happens when one interviewee mentions multiple concepts while describing any attribute. For the conceptual framework of management, we'll take the concept to define a roadmap. We isolate this concept for a better description. For instance, the participants 23 and 30 mentioned the discipline attribute and explained its importance. The participants 23 and 20 mentioned the attribute project management, also explaining about this attribute. So, the participants mentioned the different attributes, but there are similarities in the explanations. In that way, we created the concept to define a roadmap based on similarities between the meanings of the expositions. So, we created one conceptual framework for each category. To answer the third question, we conducted a rate survey with maintainers and contributors aimed to understand how they prioritize these attributes. In the questionnaire, a brief description introduced the question related to attributes, and each participant rated the attributes in terms of an asymmetric scale. We closed the survey with 90 answers. We received the answers from 70 women, 3 non-binary, and 70 men. The survey analysis was based on the scale used to rate the attributes. We employed 3 metrics to analyze the survey results. For each attribute, the essential metric, which highlights the attributes that stand above the others, if we consider that our interviewees mentioned all of them. For the essential metric, we have a clear winner: communication. The second attribute with the highest percentage of votes for essential is quality assurance, followed by community building. The other 2 attributes that compose the top 5 are not related to technical competencies: empathy and vision. Therefore, it's clear that social and management skills are essential to excel in the position. To summarize and present the contribution of this study, this paper's contributions include a list of 22 attributes that define the responsibilities of open source software maintainers, a conceptual framework that relates the attributes of a great maintainer, quantitative evidence about contributors' perception of the importance of the attributes. This attribute describes that perhaps a great maintainer practices leadership and personal skills on a level that few people get to experience.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Q&A session for the paper on what makes a great maintainer of open source projects. I'm Daniela Damian from University of Victoria, and I'm joined by two of the authors of the paper, Edson Diaz and Igor Steinmacher. And I welcome your questions. Thank you for a great presentation, Edson. Very and great study.
Thank you.
Carla Silva also thought the presentation was great. I'm going to wait about a few seconds for questions to come. I do have my own, but I don't want to take the floor. Alex Sarenbrennick is asking, did you observe differences between perception of the importance between people of different genders? So I think he's referring to, Alex, are you referring to the genders being the maintainers or those who, the respondents?
I can try to start answering this question, Dana. So Alex, yeah, we did actually for the interviews. I started the interviews. Even Alex saying that it's the survey. In the interviews, we tried to get a more closely balanced number of men and women, and we could not notice so many differences based on gender. And according to the survey, same thing. We could not find any big discrepancy between when we analyze gender, even having like just 10% of the 20% of the answers from women. Yeah.
Okay. Zishi is asking, did anything come up how a great maintainer affects open source contributor recruitment and retention? So the impact of a great maintainer on the recruitment.
I believe that great maintainers understand more about the role and attribute of great maintainers. So there is improvement. There is improvement in a decision for consider the recruitment.
Yeah, that's just to compliment. It was not like exactly what we were looking for, but I can say that there are at least two categories that we found that are related to how they receive newcomers. So I think I don't remember. It was quite a high number that mentioned that a good maintainer would be good in being empathic and on well receiving people and providing it good answers to newcomers and everything. However, I don't think it's possible to say that it affects somehow the recruitment or the retention. I think we should need like look from the other perspective to see how it goes.
Which actually relates to one of my questions, which I'm going to ask after Carla Silva's question. Did you observe differences between perceptions of great maintainers in big and small OS communities? So did it matter, the workload, the size of the community in terms of how many people they had to manage contributions from?
To be fair, we didn't analyze through this lens, Carla, but what I can say is that the answer is no. Even like not clearly looking at that, of course, we had in mind which communities these people were related to. So I don't think there were like big outliers saying, okay, big company maintainers mentioned this, but the other ones no. I don't remember from the top of my mind anything like that. But again, like we didn't look at that lens specifically. We didn't bring it to the table to look at, okay, these guys are from big and small. Because some of them, it really depends on what is big and small. For example, we had people from Red Hat that maintains a small library. So should they consider this person someone from a small community or from a big community? It's a small project, but it's a big company. So it's quite hard to sell this. Another thing that we thought about looking at was paid versus unpaid. a company-based versus non-company-based. But again, this is tricky. Like where we're talking about the community, the person who is paid to do that job, or the person who is paid by a company to join open source somehow or to help in the community. So it's kind of tricky when you go to this level. The big and small, I think it's the same thing. So we analyzed, but we didn't take the lanes and say, okay, let's do it systematically to have this answer.
Sounds like these are great ideas for follow-up studies, Igor. I'm going to take two more
and
questions.
Edson has a lot to do. So Edson has a lot to do on that. He's starting his PhD with this great paper. So ideas are always.
So big or small, I think that good maintenance are always welcome for a health and growth community. A small community needs sustainability.
Alex has a follow-up question. Can you think of a profile for a great maintainer that could be used in the future? Like think about personality tests that it could be given to say if A is a greater maintainer, but B is not. What would that be including? And I don't think we are asked to list now the traits, but or how would you operationalize? That's the bigger question, right? That repository analysis can be done.
That one, Edson.
Understand. How is it to the personalized documentation profiling?
So it's about attaching metrics to the traits that you came up to. That's a great future works.
Yeah, we've been discussing that.
We conducted these metrics.
Yeah, we've been discussing that, like trying to check if how we can for the categories that we have, we are trying to find how to measure them, what we can directly measure. For example, for the communication, how good people are on sessions and whatever. On the perspective of technical, how are these people doing in terms of reviewing code or getting more code in, or actually sending quality-wise codes. So we are thinking about how to collect data, whatever can be automatically. We are thinking about. We have not think about anything that depend on people answering servers or answering like questionnaires. I think this is trickier because when you think about, okay, we are evaluating if you're a good or a bad maintainer, this will be potentially a great bias from the respondent side.
Right. Theo Zimmerman's question is a follow-up to this. How could these skills be recognized as great maintainers? I presume he's referring to the operationalization of these skills, like what's the visible evidence in the code or in the work practice of someone. And that's probably where these metrics could help.
I think this could help on looking what works and what does not work. So we have mapped what are the potential characteristics of great maintainers, but we don't know to what extent in practice these are effective in terms of keeping people in or keeping the project sustainable. So I think we can now that we have the attributes, you can see like, okay, indeed this one here was a top one, a top ranked here, and indeed, and when we check two maintainers with one of a good reputation on that item and one of a bad reputation on that item, we can see that the projects are really different in terms of this and that.
And perhaps
I
that's
cannot
a way
say exactly
to
what we can analyze, but yep.
Yeah, and
exactly.
It's perhaps a way to validate any operationalizations you come up with, right?
Exactly.
If you seek evidence for those in projects. Philippe is asking whether you considered checking your framework against the OSS policies and guidelines for contributor behavior. Maybe he's referring to maintainer behavior, not contributor, I wonder.
No, we did not. I think he's referring to that OSS guidelines from GitHub. But no, we didn't check anything against the results.